Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following today. U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran wants to make a peace deal, but Iran is seeking China's help. Plus, we recount some little-known World War II history. German POWs were executed right here in southern Alberta. And baseball season is right around the corner. We tell you about the upcoming Grand Slam of Baseball showcase.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. While U.S. President Donald Trump keeps suggesting Iran wants to make a deal to end the war in the Middle East, there doesn't appear to be one on the horizon. Trump didn't mention an agreement Wednesday in a social media post, but he did threaten Iran with more intense bombing than before if the country doesn't agree to the deal. His latest comments come after Trump suspended a short-lived U.S. effort to force open a safe passage for commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's effective closure of the strait has sent fuel prices skyrocketing around the world while rattling the global economy. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Affairs Minister Abbas Araghchi has traveled to Beijing to meet his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi. We get more from this Associated Press report out of Bangkok.
Now, this is significant because it is the first time that he has visited China since the beginning of the war. The two sides discussed a resolution to the war, or trying to find a resolution to this war. China also reiterated its call for the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. And it also said that a comprehensive ceasefire was urgently needed. But China also said that it appreciates Iran's commitment to not develop nuclear weapons, and that Iran had the ability and should have the ability to use nuclear energy peacefully. Araghchi, in response, said that it is possible to resolve the issue of reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and that he expects China to continue to play a positive role in promoting peace.
Both Trump and Iranian officials have credited Beijing with securing their acceptance of a Pakistan-brokered ceasefire in April. Yesterday, we were telling you about a 49-year-old Toronto woman who is going to court to get an exemption for medically assisted death or MAID. Her underlying condition is mental illness, for which MAID is not currently available. On Wednesday, Justice Minister Sean Fraser said the government will wait for a report from a parliamentary committee before taking a position on whether Canada is prepared to extend MAID to people whose sole underlying condition is a mental illness. But Conservative MP Michael Cooper, who is on the committee, says there are two unresolved issues. One is how you prove someone who is mentally ill will never get better.
We heard testimony from experts that many people suffering from underlying mental health disorders do get better and go on to lead healthy and happy lives. So what that would mean is that if this were to go forward, persons who could get better would have their lives prematurely ended. The second issue, political issue, is the difficulty in distinguishing between a request for MAID motivated by suicidal ideation and a rational request.
The Globe and Mail reported Wednesday, based on sources, that the federal government expects the committee to recommend a pause on the mental health expansion. Canada's Privacy Commissioner is expressing concern about tech company OpenAI and its artificial intelligence platform ChatGPT. Federal Privacy Commissioner Philip Dufresne, along with his BC, Alberta, and Quebec counterparts, say the concern centers around how OpenAI collected the information to train ChatGPT.
Over the course of our investigation, we identified several concerns that led us to find that the way in which OpenAI had initially trained ChatGPT did not respect Canadian privacy laws. In particular, we found that OpenAI's collection and use of information to train its models was overly broad, resulting in the collection and use of sensitive personal information.
The probe found that OpenAI did not clearly explain that personal information collected from publicly accessible sources could include data from social media, discussion forums, and other similar websites. Dufresne says since the probe, OpenAI has taken steps to improve privacy protections that will limit the personal information used to train new ChatGPT models and better protect Canadians' rights to privacy. Coming up later in the program, we'll have more about government AI regulation with constitutional lawyer John Carpe, so stay tuned for that. In local news, Lethbridge City Council continues to grapple with options for renewing its current integrated fire and EMS contract. But following a special council meeting on Tuesday, details have become a bit clearer. It's been revealed that back on March 24th, during a closed meeting, council did vote unanimously to notify Emergency Health Services that the city does not agree to cover additional costs associated with a new ground ambulance agreement while maintaining the city's right to participate in further negotiations. However, Mayor Blaine Higgins says this directive is not yet set in stone due to moving deadlines and changing information. Council will meet again on May 12th, where it's possible the decision from March 24th can be rescinded with a 2/3 majority vote.
There's a rescindment motion actually coming forward on, as I mentioned, to May 12th because a colleague of mine is bringing that forward so that to rescind the decision of saying no to the province. So that would bring it back onto us. We will take the costs onto the city of Lethbridge, the taxpayers, and we move forward that way if that passes and that motion continues to move forward. This has been a very complex issue to deal with as we work together with the municipality and the provincial government, trying to get some answers to questions that we have. And just the patience that the community has shown has been amazing. I know it's understandable. We're very passionate about the service that we have because it's an incredible service.
The community has been loud and clear that they don't support the loss of our integrated system. Poll in the Herald, 80% of members of the city would be interested in a modest tax increase to support this system. So we've heard loud and clear from our community that they support this system. And Tuesday, we're going to have an opportunity to see if council does the right thing and supports the system that's been providing life-saving care for 114 years.
The extra costs the city would take on in EHS's proposed contract would mean an extra $3.7 million in 2027, resulting in a 1.8% tax increase. EHS has notified the city that if it does not agree to the new deal, EHS will move to an open procurement process or a direct delivery model to provide services locally. Lethbridge police have charged a 22-year-old man in connection with a weekend altercation at Henderson Lake. At approximately 6:30 p.m. on Sunday, police responded to a report of a dispute between two men on a walking path northeast of the Henderson Lake Golf Course clubhouse. A witness reported one man threatened another with a weapon. By the time police arrived, the two had fled the scene, but a short time later, police saw a man matching the subject's description crossing Parkside Drive. During a police chase, the man threw what appeared to be a knife in a backyard. He was taken into custody a short time later, and the knife was eventually recovered. Police say 22-year-old Ty Michael Swatsky has been charged with possession of a weapon dangerous to the public and obstructing a peace officer. He is scheduled to appear in court June 17th. Police have identified the victim and are thanking the public for their help in locating him. Today, we bring our second and final report on some forgotten war history right here in southern Alberta. Two prisoner of war camps, one in Medicine Hat and the other in Lethbridge, held thousands of German soldiers during the Second World War. This year marks 80 years since the last prisoners were sent back home to Germany. To conclude our two-part series, BCN's Landon Hickok explores a dark period in the history of Camp 132 and a murder conspiracy involving Nazi prisoners.
Lethbridge's Camp 133 similarly held over 12,000 German prisoners up until the tail end of 1946, when all prisoners were repatriated back to Germany. This marker here beside me marks what was once the southwest corner of Camp 133, near the intersection of 5th Avenue North and 28th Street North. The entire camp has been dismantled the following years since its closing, and it's been replaced by the industrial zone in the north end of the city. But as history tells us, the camp was not without its dark spots. And in 1946, multiple German prisoners were executed and hanged here in the city for their crimes of murdering, some of their own.
There's a couple of fellas that they worked with local businesses and local farmers and stuff like that, and they formed a friendship. And that was not looked upon in a very good way by the hierarchy. And it was felt that some of these guys were getting too close. You shouldn't be doing that. And if we find out that you are, we're going to fix you, so to speak. So that kind of generated into that. And as a result, two of the guys, they were killed, they were hung.
August Plaschek was murdered in 1943 after a Gestapo-like Nazi leadership branded him as a traitor. Another POW, Karl Lehmann, was lured and then killed a year later after his apparent anti-Nazi beliefs.
The guys that were involved with that, they went through the court system. They went through the local court here, and then they went to Lethbridge. They also took them to Lethbridge and went through the military court, and they were found guilty, and then they were executed there.
One man, Werner Schwab, was sentenced and hanged in August of 1946 for his role in the murder of Plaschek. Four more prisoners were found guilty for their role in the murder of Lehmann. Alongside one other suspect found guilty of a separate murder, all five were hanged in the Lethbridge jail that December, marking the final mass execution in Canada's history. There are not many who even remember that these POW camps have even existed. Is that something that you feel like it might soon become lost history in your opinion?
Yes. And the only reason I say that is that we have become a society of technology. People are more in tune to click, 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 click. And the thinking about this and the history behind that, oh, well, I can Google that now and read it on Google. I don't have to go to see it. I can see it on Google. Well, it's not the same. It's nowhere near the same. You walk into this building, the history in this building alone is mind-blowing. The key thing is preserving the history. 132 prisoner of war camp here in Medicine Hat is just that little microscopic part of it. And I shouldn't say microscopic. It's just a small part of the history of the regiment, but we still preserve it here.
The South Alberta Light Horse Society acquired the East Hall and Theatre in the 50s and has used it as an armory and operations base. It remains in operation today, standing as a key reminder in an often neglected part of history. For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
Thank you, Landon. You can find the combined feature on our YouTube channel and at bridgecitynews.ca. One of the most anticipated celebrations of the year is just around the corner. The 2026 Whip Up Days has been announced with a lineup that includes the Lethbridge and District Pro Rodeo, the Siksika Itsitapi Powwow, performances on the Whip Up Days stage, and more. BCN's Heidi Echevarria has the details.
Preparations are underway for one of the most anticipated events of the year.
Kind of coming out of COVID, we really scaled the event back and started to look at what our core programming was. And that's when we got going with the Siksika Itsitapi Powwow and Princess Pageant and the Lethbridge and District Pro Rodeo. And those became our cornerstone events. There's over 100 hours of live entertainment during Whoop Up Days.
This year's program also features new edition, including parties every night of the fair.
We open up with a kickoff party on night one. We have the Siksika Itsitapi Music Showcase on night 2, and then we have our brand new rodeo cabaret on nights 3, 4, and 5. We're really excited to bring in the Lord Strathcona Horse musical mounted ride. Just building things up bigger and bigger. There's new areas in the family fun zone. There's new areas in the marketplace.
The expansion's really been, as you've seen in our stage, the rodeo has been really good, attracting some of the top talent. We're adding the cabaret this time right on the grounds, rodeo grounds, which is quite exciting. So we do have a number of groups that we work with that also are able to raise funds. The bites that we have are run by a volunteer group, and they get the funds from there. We have people who help clean up the grounds. We also are able to bring in different community members like the Blackfoot and that really participate in different ways.
We are increasing our prize money incrementally this year in both the pro rodeo and the relay races. We want to be able to say that we are garnering the best athletes and the best competitors from across the North America and around the world. A big thing this year is one of the still optional events in Pro Rodeo is the Ladies Breakaway. We have made it so that the Ladies Breakaway roping is also equal prize money as all the other events this year.
Heidi Chavarria, Bridge City News.
And during the announcement, Paul Kingsmith, the Director of Event Development with Excite Lethbridge, was honored to receive a Blackfoot name. Let's take a look at his reaction.
Oh, it's a handsome otter. He told me to go home and practice and make sure that I can say it in Blackfoot. And it just means the world to me. It's the work that we've been able to do with the Blackfoot Confederacy it means so much, and it means so much to be here on Blackfoot territory. And so to be invited into the community, to get a name, to get that kind of honor is really, really tough to comprehend.
Well, the month of May is a busy one for the Lethbridge Bulls, and here's a curveball. The club will be hosting an 11-day baseball extravaganza. The Canadian Grand Slam Baseball Showcase and Festival will be pitching a whole host of events and games held right here in the Windy City. The biggest highlight is a gala, which will feature the opportunity to meet and hear from some big names in Canadian baseball.
May 27th is a really exciting night here in Lethbridge. Kevin Pillar is coming in from the Toronto Blue Jays fame. He is joining us for the gala along with Nicole Chansky, a former national team women's player for Baseball Canada, and speaking at our gala.
The full list of events can be found at bullsbaseball.com. Sounds exciting with the boys and girls of summer coming to town here.
In an increasingly complex global market, the value of international perspective for Canadian producers has really never been higher. Applications are now open for the 2027 Nuffield Canada Scholarship. That's a 2-year program designed for agricultural professionals aged 25 to 50. This is a really intensive leadership track that requires a minimum of 10 weeks of international travel. That kind of does sound like fun. The objective is for scholars to step away from their domestic operations to research specific global challenges, and they bring those insights back to the Canadian industry. As Nuffield Canada Chair Steve Larocque notes, the program is built to challenge a participant's existing assumptions by exposing them to different regulatory, environmental, and market realities abroad. Beyond the individual research projects, scholars build an international network of expertise that often serves as a long-term resource for their sectors. For those looking to bridge the gap between local production and global trends, the deadline to apply is June 30th at nuffield.ca. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with realagriculture.com.
The head of the International Energy Agency, Faith Barol, says the global energy crisis from the war in Iran will hit Canadians soon. Barol told a fireside chat with Energy Minister Tim Hodgson on Tuesday that while other countries are already struggling, Canada has not been hit as hard. Hodgson says agency modeling suggests Canada's allies are weeks away from having to shut down operations because of a lack of energy, and Canada could soon see more price hikes.
I think in this country, we're a little better off, but we'll have a price impact for sure. We've already seen, but we haven't seen anything yet if we don't get this situation under control.
Tuesday's chat came after 5 of Canada's largest oil sands producers are criticizing the federal and Alberta governments for slow progress on finalizing parts of their energy deal. The Oil Sands Alliance calls the deal a good first step, but says Canada is at risk of letting a golden opportunity pass by. It says the war in Iran, the disruption of oil shipments at the Strait of Hormuz, and the resulting global energy supply chain pressures have highlighted the need for affordable, reliable energy. Meanwhile, clean energy groups are calling on Prime Minister Mark Carney to deliver policies for clean energy solutions and reduced emissions. Honda Motor plans to more definitively halt development on its $15 billion electric vehicle complex in Canada. A news report out of Asia says the Japanese auto market paused development in May last year, saying that at the time, the company would review where the EV market was in 2 years before deciding the future of the project. The report says sluggish U.S. demand for EVs is leading the automaker to freeze the Canadian Canadian EV investment and make hybrids the center of its North American strategy. Honda already produces hybrid Civics and CR-Vs at its plant in Alliston, Ontario, alongside conventional gas models. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 414 points on the day to 33,981. The Dow was up 612 points to 49,910. The S&P 500 was up 105 to 7365, and the Nasdaq was up 512 points, and the Nasdaq was up 512 points to finish at 25,838. West Texas Intermediate oil was down 606 to 96.21 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 6 cents to 2.72 US. Gold was up 135.02 to 46.9103 US an ounce, and silver was up 4.53 to 77.33 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.55 per bushel. Barley is at $6.97. Canola is at $16.90, and corn is at $7.67 per bushel. Live cattle June contract was up 25 cents to 253.47. Feeder cattle were up 57 cents to 372.40. Lean hogs were down $1.10 to 91.70. And the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours at 73.40 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, an Alberta Conservative MP says the government should indefinitely delay expanding access to medical assistance in dying. Michael Cooper sits on the parliamentary committee studying whether people who only have a mental illness should be able to access assisted dying. Cooper says the expansion shouldn't happen because there are too many unanswered questions. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he won't take a position yet and will wait for the committee's report. When it comes to privacy and personal data, Canadians need to be on the alert. John Carpay, president of the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, believes the federal government regulating AI companies may not be the answer. Stay tuned to find out more. That is coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or our YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content, as well as our poll questions.